Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. It's June 17th, 2022. Our agenda this morning, we'll start with success stories. We'll then have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat box. We'll then hear from our committees, workshop, job fairs, practice interview team, the interview success workshop, the career tip of the week, and then we will have our speaker right around 10 o'clock. For those on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just open up the chat window. You're also welcome to go ahead and start putting your 30-second introduction information into there. That'd be great. For those watching on Facebook, you're welcome to enter your questions in the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds and we'll get those questions answered for you. This event will be recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments and your personal information you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2007, I took over facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. Like I said, I took it over in 2007. In 2008, I started a second website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, and you'll hear more about that in just a couple of moments. Well, we like to start the meeting off with good news. Do we have any landings? Anybody? I didn't hear of any. Nobody sent me an email this week, but any good news for anybody you'd like to share? Mark, do you have a landing, please?
I do, yes. Let me bring up my notes here. Maya Kemsara landed, and so she practiced with the practice interview team twice. She practiced on March 24th for a position with Care Now as a front desk administrator. And then a couple of weeks later, she practiced for a position with an asthma and allergy center as a treatment coordinator. And then she ended up landing at Care Now as a patient representative. So younger woman, very capable, studied biology in school and thinks she wanted to go pre-med. So she was very intent on finding a position in one of these care centers, and she did. So congratulations to Maya.
Right. All right. Well, congratulations. Anybody else? Any other news from anybody?
For those of it that know Jack Bick, Jack has landed.
Oh my.
Jack moved to the Panhandle in Florida about, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago. Is a coach, but has suspended his coaching now, and he is now helping grow and build a small newspaper in multiple counties in the North Florida area. Jack is a writer, he's the publisher, he's all that sort of thing, and so he's very energized and excited in his new role to help grow this small paper.
Oh, yeah, Jack's got that newspaper blood running through him, just black and white ink running through his veins. So that'll be great. That'll be good for him. Well, great. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's see here. Oh, it's time now for everybody to put their 30-second introductions in the chat window. If you will, put in your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, then 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. And by doing that, that'll do a couple things. Number one, we'll update the roster, and we will use that information to update the roster. Number two, I will take all that information and I'll put it out into an email this afternoon. And please look it over and see who you can help this afternoon. Look down other people's companies that people are looking for. And if you can reach out and help somebody, that would be great. If you could help them out this afternoon, that would be really, really nice. And then the third thing is if there's any handouts or any special stuff going out, we will get invitations so you can join our group.io app so you can find out about our upcoming events. So let me put 30 seconds on the clock for you to get started. All right, plenty of time for everybody to continue to put your information in. We just really appreciate it to be able to get everything up to date. All right, if you know somebody who's recently unemployed, someone who's, somebody who's been unemployed for a while, please let them know about Career DFW, Career USA. 2 totally free websites just there to help you land your next great opportunity. All the information is totally free. They don't collect any personal information. We're just there to help you. All right, it's time to hear from the practice interview team. Good morning, Mark.
Well, good morning, Jeff. And let me tell you guys about the practice interview team. And guess what? We offer practice interviews. And the best way to learn and be prepared for interviews is to actually have, practice doing them. And so that's what the PIT crew does. It's a very personalized and customized experience. It's based on a job description that you provide, and of course your resume, and then where you are in the process. So the interviews are different if it's an early round interview versus a late round interview. The practice sessions are different as well. So when you're ready to practice, all you need to do is send me an email at dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. It's right there on the bottom of that card. And I'll go to work setting up a practice interview for you, which will take a couple of days. So the PIT crew needs a couple of days of advanced notice. And it never fails, several times a month I get people who reach out on Monday for a practice interview on Tuesday, and that's just hard, that's hard to do. Now, we will find a way to help you, and that just happened yesterday, as a matter of fact. So I set up a coaching session, just one-on-one, that Walt volunteered for. So we're dedicated and committing to helping you do better in your interview. So reach out, no matter your situation, and we'll try to help you. But if you'd like to really have a practice interview, then I need a couple of days to set that up. I am now setting those up on multiple days of the week at multiple times. The afternoon is best, but we can do them in the morning. And so when you send in your information, include when you're available to practice, or if you're available a lot of the time, then when you're not available to practice, then we'll set those things up. So during business hours, Monday through Friday, are possible practice interview opportunities. I can do 3 or 4 per week, and right now I don't have any scheduled for next week. So opportunity is hand. If you're thinking about practicing, send your information in, and we'll get that set up for you. And it all goes to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. That's the way to reach me. The other thing the PIT crew offers is a one-way practice interview opportunity. This Jeff got us a nice tool called Easy Hire. It's tools that, that's a professional level tool that companies buy. It's not a free thing. And so we use that as to give you a chance to practice these one-way interviews. And the PIT crew version of that is very straightforward. There's only 4 questions. I give you the questions in advance. My goal is just to get you used to interfacing with these tools, which is a bit different than you'd expect. So take advantage of the opportunity to practice that anytime you'd like. You'll get a video recording of your one-way interview, and of course, if you can look it over, and if you don't like it, then you can practice again. We'll just set it up for another round. I also coach a little bit. One topic is I claim expertise in coaching people on how to answer the question, why did you leave your last position, or why did you leave your last job, or maybe you have a series of previous engagements, short-term, that you're having trouble explaining. So if you're going to have any difficulty at all, any consternation or angst about answering that question, then let's have a conversation, and we'll storyboard how to answer the initial question and any follow-up questions that may be generated by your situation. And if you've got a really complicated situation, give me a call. We need to talk. And we'll do that on the phone, and we'll do it on Zoom. And I guarantee you'll benefit from answering that question well, because if it's a complicated situation, it's going to be a stumbling block to you being selected for your next position. And when I say coaching, some people say, well, how much does that cost? It costs absolutely nothing. Everything the PIT crew does is absolutely free for job seekers. So that's our goal, is to get you landed as quickly as possible to get your cash flow going again. Let's see, what else? I only got a couple of more things. The PIT crew is always looking for new volunteers. So I've had several of them land. As usual, in the last few months, I've had several very active volunteers land. And so I'm looking for additional hiring managers to join the roster. So all the interviewers, all the volunteers for the pit crew have been hiring managers as part of their professional responsibility. And they've also all been through job transition. As a matter of fact, most of them are in job transition right now. They're looking for work while they're volunteering to help you out. And so I try to keep a big roster of volunteers. So the time commitment is very low for each one of them. So if that's something that you'd be interested in doing, giving back to the job search community while you're in job search, then reach out to me. I have an opportunity for you. And I'll get you involved in a volunteer activity that's going to help you out as well. You'll benefit greatly from being on the interviewer side of the practice interviews. It'll help your interviewing as well. And is there anything else? Did I forget something? Seems like I forgot something.
I
But I've
think you
forgotten
got
it,
it
so
all. You just did it out of different order today. So
I've forgotten something. I can't remember what I forgot. So
oh, you didn't say practice early, practice often.
there we go. Practice early. There we go. So practice early, practice often. So practice early means you can practice before you even have an opportunity in hand. So if you're new to the job search, pick out a job description that looks good to you. Maybe it's something close to your dream job, and send it in, and we'll give you a chance to practice, and you'll get the feedback afterwards, and you'll get the video, and you'll be that much further ahead when a real opportunity comes up, which you can also practice for. So the practice often is we encourage you to practice as many times as you need to. And if you want to go for the record, it's 9 times in about 14 months. And that person landed, but I think you may land before 9 times, but certainly have evidence if you practice 9 times, you'll land. So come practice as many times as you like, and practice early. Get that feedback behind you, and you'll be that much better prepared. Thanks for the cue, Jeff. I never would have remembered that.
Thank you, Mark. All right, Walt, good morning.
Good morning. What was that song? I forgot to remember what I was to forget, or something like that. Okay. Well, good morning to everyone. I offer interviewing confidence and skills too through the Interview Success Workshop. Very different from the pit crew, which I hardly recommend. But the workshop deals with the fundamentals of differentiation and how to sell what companies are buying. The three-legged stool of who we are, what we do, and how we can help. So it's very informal. It is free. You have to be registered to attend. Look me up on my Walt Glass LinkedIn page. The About section gives you details, gives you my email address, my Yahoo email address to register. I schedule them always every Tuesday from 9 to 11, and then as the need might arise at other times. I'd be glad to have you participate. This is a workshop and an interview. You will get a video of your interview. We'll cover these fundamental questions, how we would approach, maybe look at strategies, structures, options, ways that we might respond to the question, who's asking the question, and where you are in the process. So be glad to have you participate. It's one of these things where you don't have to go see your life flash in front of your eyes while you're practicing. We can have learning without squirming. I have 2 poems today. Are we ready to sell our brand, or interviewing not going as planned? Don't delay, don't be late. Put practice on our plate and leave the competition at the gate. Job search can include a lot of stress. It's living more that can help us best. Our speaker today is second to none. Let's listen to the wisdom from PJ Dunn.
Thank you very, very much. Special poem just for PJ. Just thank you very, very much. Let's see here. Well, before we get to career tip of the week, let me just mention, if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you've not gone to the Career DFW calendar, you'll see that there's lots of different events going on. There does happen to be, there are 2 job fairs that are happening this week. So one on Wednesday and one on Thursday that I'm aware of. So you can click on one of those and you can get more information. And then under the special workshop category, you'll see that there's a If you're interested in Microsoft Excel 2006 Basic, there's a 5-day class going on. And then LinkedIn interviewing and networking classes are happening this week. All that's on the Career DFW calendar. You're welcome to go check that out. Okay, it's time to hear for the career tip of the week. Good morning, Rosanna.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. All right, this week's career tip of the week. The simple guidelines you should follow when naming your resume and cover letter files. When you're first creating a document, even as important one like your resume or cover letter, you might give it a placeholder file name while you're working on it. So if you're job searching, you probably have at least one document named something like Resume 2021 or Front-End Engineer as far as cover letter, but you probably shouldn't submit a cover letter or resume with a file name like that. It is important to have a clear and professional file name so your resume doesn't get lost. Recruiters and other hiring professionals are often working quickly and have multiple sorry, I'm having trouble following along here myself. Recruiters and other hiring professionals are often working very quickly and have multiple positions they're hiring for at any given time. So an easy to scan file name makes it simple for the recruiter to keep track of your information. You'll also come across an ideal professional. Both of which things are that can help you make a good impression on the recruiter and anyone considering hiring you. So how to name your resume or cover letter. Here are a few rules to follow as you name the resume and cover letter files, whether you're attaching them to an email or uploading the files to an online system. First, follow any instructions in the job description. Sometimes job postings will ask you to include the position title or identification number in your file name or to follow a certain format. You should always pay attention to any directions in the job posting. Otherwise, your application might be ignored or you may end up looking like you can't follow instructions, which isn't exactly the most desirable trait in an employee. Next, make sure your file name is descriptive and unique to you. You should always include your first and last name as well as what the file name is, such as Joseph_Washington_resume. Next, the format your file name should always be easy to read. Use capital letters to begin words, especially your first and last name, and separate each word. You should use regular spaces or you might use underscores, hyphens, or something similar. Just avoid slashes and backslashes, which can make a mess of any different computer systems and programs, even if you're able to if you're able to save the file. Next, include the position you're applying to, which is optional. If you'd like to, you can always include the title of the job you're applying for and even name the organization, which can help you keep track of your documents and also gives a subtle nod to the fact that you've tailored your materials. So something along the lines of cover-letter-Leah-Kim-staff-accountant or Batya Feldman resume is a safe bet. Here are some more examples of resume and cover letter names. Anna Maria Estevez, product designer resume. Cover letter Rohan Ahmed, JP_cover_letter_senior_recruiter_Yax. And then Kayla-Harrison-resume. What not to do when naming a resume or cover letter file. Though the exact file name you give your resume isn't the most important thing, as long as it follows the guidelines above, there are a few things you should definitely avoid. First, file names that don't make sense. I've seen files saved under another person's name or a bunch of random letters and numbers. Avoid submitting a resume or cover letter with a file name that's difficult to understand or it doesn't make it unclear what the document is. Version numbers. though you can and should revise your resume and cover letter as you get ready to apply to a job, make sure you delete the version numbers in the file name when you submit it. For example, Sam-Madison-resume-version3 won't look as polished as Sam-Madison-resume. Next, generic file names. You should never submit a resume file named resume or cover letter saved as cover letter admin assistant. Your name should always be in the file title. If not, how will a recruiter or hiring manager remember who resume belongs to? And how will they easily be able to search your resume if they want to go back and find it? If a recruiter or hiring manager wants to find your resume specifically, the first thing they'll do is search or scan the folder where they've saved resumes for your name. And then next, what file type to use? While naming your resume or cover letter file, you might also be thinking about the file type. So what file type is best for job applications? There are only two right answers, a PDF or a Word document. You should only use a different file extension if a job description specifies that the employer or recruiter would like to see your documents in a different format, such as .txt or .doc. So that is the career tip of the week dated June the 12th. And then also, while I have the floor, I want to let everyone know I dropped in the chat an invitation to Patricia Romboletti. She is a career coach and really great speaker. I think she'd be really good for our team here, Jeff. She's actually presenting a webinar for the New Jersey group, and she's extended that opportunity and invitation to everybody who's on her normal weekly call, which is always on Thursday nights. But she's doing a presentation on Monday, and I've put the information in chat. I think it would be really beneficial for anyone who wants to hear her. And then also at the end of her presentation, I'm sure she'll show how to invite everybody to her normal weekly Thursday night call. But she's a dynamic speaker, and I think it would be great for everyone to hear her. And then again, Jeff, I think she would be great for us as well.
Great. Well, thank you.
Right.
And that's 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time.
That is correct.
If you want, all the information is right there in the chat window. I'll copy it and make sure it goes out in the email that I put out this afternoon.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, coming up in just a couple of minutes, we'll hear from PJ Dunn talking about stress less, live more while on the job search track. We'll hear from him in just a second. I just want to talk about upcoming sessions. Next week, the one-page bio with Minna Brown. I think it's more and more important that everybody should have a one-page bio. I think it is extremely important in your job search, because when you send a resume out to somebody, you say, help me, I'm looking for a job. When you send out a one-page bio, you're saying, I'd like to network with you. I'd like to get some more information. It doesn't scream that you're looking for a job. So I think a one-page bio is a very effective tool. Minna Brown wrote a book with Paula Asanoff called Be Sharp, and she'll be with us to talk about the one-page bio, the part of that book that just talks about the one-page bio next week. So please be sure to join us next Friday morning. And then in 2 weeks, first Friday of the month, on July 1st, we will do open forum. Whatever questions you have about your job search, welcome to ask, and everybody's here just to answer and give questions and feedbacks to everybody who's around. So it's time for our speaker, PJ Dunn. PJ is a leadership coach, a professional development coach. I mean, you hear him talk about great stuff. We've had him talk here at the group about strength finders and core clarity, and how you merge the two, and how you merge that with other people on your team. So PJ, thank you for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me again to be here. Let me get my screen set up so we can then move forward. So let's see what we have here. Here's where we are, and let's see. So here's the thing. A lot of times when we talk about looking for a job, one of the things that we don't think about is our mental health. We don't necessarily think about where we are. And by the way, great recruiters, great anyone who's actually looking for people to hire people, they know to look at the mental state of this person as well, because they know that on a lot of these interviews, sometimes people kind of inflate the truth a little bit as to what's really going on. So with that, we need to really know and really have a great function on understanding what makes us feel so anxious. And then at the same time, what has us elated, what gets us excited. And by the way, we can always tie this back to strength. So my name is PJ Dunn. Again, what I am is a certified coach, a professional coach. I work a lot of times with attorneys, sitting judges, and some sort of financial planning industry folks as well. And for 12 years, what I do is I help people just understand who they are so that they could be the most authentic self in order to bring something to the table that makes them an asset. So real quick, just to start off, I want to give everybody a sense of how this works today. So here, I will tell you that everyone here is an asset. How do I know that? Because you all have strengths. Now, somewhere in there, you've been polishing those strengths, or maybe they've been stagnant, but either way, you have strengths. And so here's the thing. On a job interview, all you're doing is talking to the boss about how you're, I guess the boss that would be your prospective boss. What you're doing in the interview is telling them, this is how I'm an asset. Now, this is important because if you don't know what value you bring to the table, you're not an asset. You are now a liability. So I believe everybody is an asset, but where they are is, where are they in that conversation of being compelling about saying who they are, what they do, why they like to do it, and why they'd like to do more of it with other folks as well. Now, today we're going to talk about how do you do this whole stress less thing while trying to live more, while in the middle of trying to find a job. Well, it's going to have a lot to do with the mental. So I like to kind of open this up for some of you. If you want to just put some of the answers, I'm going to ask some of the questions into the chat. Please feel free to do that. Some of you, if you want to unmute and answer, that's even better. I like the interaction. I do not want this to be a boring lecture. I used to fall asleep in college when I heard a lecturer just go on and on and on. So I'm okay with you reaching out and telling me things. So finish this sentence. Looking for a job while getting no positive results is, unmute or type in the chat. So anyone want to tell me, just unmuting wise, what is this actually like?
Hi, PJ. Rusty right here. Yeah, I wrote roller coaster, and the reason that I did that is it's very much up and down from week to week. I'm coming off a week this week where I had 2 interviews that I was very excited about in the preparation period. Ultimately, they did not go my way, and so I'm on the other side of the roller coaster heading down the hill. And I find that a challenge to manage continually being on that roller coaster.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful, Rusty. We're going to talk about that. Anyone else want to answer that? Finish that sentence for me. Looking for a job while getting 0 positive results is?
Somebody on Facebook said, not good for your self-esteem.
Ah, yes, yes. Yeah. Anything else about this before we go to our next question?
Jasmine put in the chat window, draining.
Absolutely. So if we can see these descriptors, then what factors may be in play here? And what do you guys think, what factors are happening here? Anyone?
Lily put in the chat window, an alert that something needs to be tweaked in my job search.
Something needs to be tweaked. Okay. Anything else? See, I wasn't kidding about interactive. On Facebook, or if you want to unmute yourself, if you feel very extroverted.
Somebody on Facebook, let's see, you can't hand some random person who doesn't know you a key to your self-worth.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's very insightful. So let's take a look at this then, because there is a method to this madness. Now, this is from Dawn Norris, who is she's probably one of the most foremost people on talking about this particular topic. And she's an associate professor over there at the University of Wisconsin-Cross. And she said, most of the time when people think about this job-seeking depression, they think it's something, or they attribute it mostly to being like financially unstable, just the rejection. But it turns out the biggest key here is identity, right? So a lot of folks lose their identity when their job has become their identity. And then when you don't have that job, what are you going to do now? If for 25 years, you're used to being the guy, the girl that sat in the corner that did this one thing and you solved it every time for the company, and now that company says, we don't need you anymore, and now you're out there looking, and other companies aren't asking for that same thing, look what that does to your mindset. Look what that does to your identity. So let's keep moving. Now, this perception can get dangerous because the perception is if we believe that we are our work, then what happens is every time we don't get any response from any of those resumes that we send out, or our friends who we network with don't seem to pass our cards to the right people, we're going to get the wrong connection. We're going to make a schema in our brain that says, oh, for all those many years I was good at doing something, apparently the new world says I'm actually not that good at it. So then if we start thinking like that, then here comes the spiral. And now you're, as it was said by Rusty earlier, you're on this kind of roller coaster. You're going up and down. Some days you feel super positive. Other days, when I guess the more rejection you get, the more you feel like, okay, this must be somehow telling of who I am. But here's the thing. You actually are many identities all at once. So handling one identity crisis won't be a big issue if you look at it from this perspective. So take a look at here. So you have an identity amongst your social group, your friends. They see you as either the talker, the entertaining person, or the person who asks great questions. Your identity can be tied up in your hobbies. There's people who have joined the Corvette Club because they all drive Corvettes and they go hang out. There's the identity with your spouse. There's your spiritual identity. There's the financial. There's the family, right? There's your health identity. Your doctor knows you from a certain, health level that you've attained or have not attained. Right? So we're already kind of working in identity, but it seems to be that when you attack this identity, the identity that has to do with what you do 40 to 50 hours a week, seems to be the one that can really cast a veil over your eyes and not let you see the things you need to see and not let you hear the things that you need to hear. So here's what I would do. As a professional coach, what I love to do is show people actually how they win. Not how you lose, you already know what that looks like, but how you win. And so to me, the very first step in getting this mindset that's strong, almost a steel trap mind. And by the way, have you ever seen a bear steel trap? Once that thing shuts, you're not getting that open. What if our mind clamped onto positive ideas, like the way a bear trap clamps when it's engaged? What if we held on to that, right? So the average person is holding about 60, 70,000 thoughts a day. Unfortunately, most of those are negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts mostly are repeats of a negative thought you've been having perhaps maybe most of your life, or at least currently. So self-reflection is important. Now, I threw up a scripture here, and I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but I actually believe the psalmist here. He says, I praise you, for he understands the reality of who he's built, how he's built, and what kind of works he's able to do. And he says, my soul knows it very well. So even though you're getting negative responses and rejection, inside, really deeply, if you get past some of the negative thoughts, you've done what you've done, and you've done it well. And people have either certified you, made you a manager, promoted you. So those things are still true, even though the latest feedback doesn't seem to be so. So the question is, whose are you, right? And if we're believers, we know that, hey, God's got us. It's in his hands. We got to just do the work. By the way, why that shouldn't sound weird to you is that all the strengths and talents that you have, guess who gave them to you? So God doesn't build junk, just to let you know. He doesn't build you out of spare parts. You are uniquely and wonderfully made for the thing he's going to have you do. All work is, mostly, other than just a paycheck, is a place to manifest those gifts you've already been given. No one should be able to tell you when you're a strong, strategic person that you're not very strategic. No, you know what strategy is because you've been doing it most of your life, if that's where you are, right? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? When we talk about weaknesses, we don't say ignore them. What we say is we manage them, but we don't put a super focus on your weaknesses and drown out your strengths. Like, well, I've already got that taken care of, so I don't need to worry about my strengths. Not true. See, there's no cap to your strengths, meaning We don't know how great you could be at your greatest strength. We just don't know because God didn't put a cap on top of it, right? So God is all powerful. So when he created things powerful as well. So there's no cap on how great you can be. That's why we focus on how great we can be more so than focusing on weaknesses. We can learn from weaknesses, but we need to manage them. So how about this? If you had a job before this one, couldn't you get another one? I know this sounds simple and it maybe sound trite, but no. When we talk about self-reflection, we're also talking about asking yourself these interrogative questions, these self-interrogative questions. Hey, you've gotten a job before. You've gotten many jobs before. In fact, recruiters will tell you that the average career person is going to have at least 8 careers, not jobs, before they're done. So we know something about transition, and we know something about, okay, we have to move, we have to adjust, we have to see what is the world telling us, right? So when you look at stress, stress is this. Stress is basically an accelerator pedal, right? If you have a great understanding of stress, you know that when you step on an accelerator pedal, you're going to go somewhere. Stress says what you did to get here won't get you there. So what are you going to do? That's what stress is doing. Stress is challenging. Now, overwhelming stress over a prolonged period of time, now that can create some problems. But we're talking about just the daily stress. And right now, you're dealing with every day the stress of, let's take it one day at a time, that I'm not working, that I'm not able to manifest the gifts I already have at some company, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this and we're going to say, but you know what? We've done this before. We've been here before. Who do I not know that I need to know that knows something that I don't know, right? Who do I need to become right now in order to get to that next level? What I was doing before was great to get me where it got me. But see, now this is requiring something different of me. What is that? What would I use? Well, if you know who you are, if you know what your strengths are, and you know what your weaknesses are, if you know that you were able to get jobs before and you start to stack the positive thoughts, that's one of the most powerful mindsets you can have. You know who the most negative people are? The depressed people. You know why they're depressed sometimes? Again, everybody gets a certain amount of depression, but it's when you get into a deep depression, what you do is you see that there's no hope. And the moment you believe that there's no hope, then you'll focus on those negative thoughts. Out of those 60,000 thoughts that we have a day, you'll focus on that rather than what's actually still true, which is you still have strengths. We still haven't seen you at your best at that strength yet because you can always polish it and make it better, right? You also found jobs before. You also won people over before. Why is today different? Why is this month different? Why is this year different? It's kind of not, but if you let your mind go to the negative thoughts like to feed negative thoughts. Positive ones love to feed positive ones. Oh, and by the way, to give you an idea of how strong negative thoughts are, it takes 5 positive thoughts just to overcome 1 negative thought, because that's usually where our mind goes. We go to what could hurt us, what we might be living in a van underneath the river if we don't find a job. So we go to all these places where we catastrophize. But at the same time, if you can have negative thoughts that put you somewhere in a van down by a river, you can also have positive thoughts that say, you know what? I haven't met the person yet that knows the person that knows about the job. So let me get out there. Let me network. Let me go talk to people. Let me call Walt. Let me see who Walt's been talking to this. Let me call Jeff. They know people. They're connected. They've been doing this for a long time in this area. Why wouldn't I just have a conversation, ask them for coffee, and just see what they might say, right? Because again, we want to keep the positive mental mindset because it can be fed and do wonderful things. Now, here's the other thing, and Jeff tells you this all the time, and it's still true. I think Walt says this too. Job search is a job. It is a serious job. And in this particular market, it's a competitive job because people are wanting to come here because they hear about the employment rate here is not as high as it is in other places. It's the best place to work and live in some places for some people because of all the space and the land and all the development. We have at least 3 to 4 cities in the top fastest growing cities in America here in Texas and North Texas. Right? So there's opportunity. Opportunity means people come here, which means there's more competition. But see, if you know what your strengths are, again, what we said up front, if you know how you're an asset and then you can explain how you're valuable, you don't have to worry about that competition. You just say, bring it on, right? Because you still haven't changed, even if the circumstances have changed. There's just things you could do better, right? So one you see at the top here is you see that one of the other big losses, other than the identity loss here, is also the loss of structure. Because when you don't have to be somewhere, you'll tend not to shave if you're a guy. You'll tend not to get up, maybe not even dress. You might stay in your robe all day and work on your computer. But what that's doing is taking you out of the structure of knowing of getting up at a certain time, eating, exercising, dropping kids off, dropping stuff off the cleaners, and getting and sitting down in front of a desk and working. You need to stay in a structure. So what do? Pretty easily, you set strict working hours. You tell yourself, today I'm working from 8 to 6, right? And let it be that. Don't work 8 to 12. And then do that several days and then wonder why you're tired and burnt out, right? So set some strict working hours, just as if you were going and sitting at a desk somewhere at some company. Right? And then put some deadlines on what you're doing. Like, who you're going to reach out to this week. Do you know how many people? We're going to talk more about that. And do you know how you're going to reach out to them and which format you can do it, since we have so many portals today? You want to create simple rules and guidelines. Hey, if I don't do this before noon, then I don't get to go to lunch until this is done. But make sure you set really clean rules that, not something that's ridiculous. Like, I need to do 15 things before 9 o'clock, and right now it's 8 o'clock. It's kind of crazy, right? Be prepared to be challenged sometimes, because life happens, on any of these rules or deadlines you set. Don't use it as an excuse to go, well, I tried it. PJ said it was a good idea. I tried it, but this one thing happened, so therefore let me just get off the plan routine. No, stick to it. Just know that there will be things, because you need to see how you're going to adjust. By the way, when you start working, you'll be glad you were doing it this way, because you will have structure. And so going back to structure environment again won't be a big deal for you, because you've been used to it. And so then you want to just resist the urge to quit when you fall off the wagon, because there will be days where you just don't have the same energy level that you had on Tuesday or Wednesday. And maybe right now it's Thursday. But don't beat yourself up over it. Just say, okay, what can I do for the next hour or so that's actually relaxing to me, so that once I've had an hour of rest, I can get right back in it. Right? So there's these deals, these rules that you got to make with yourself. It's okay to be kind to yourself during the job search. Most people don't, right? Because of this right here. They feel like if I'm not putting in 15 hours a day, every day, if I'm not revising my resume 15 times a month, then I must not be really trying that hard to work on finding a job. When really what you're doing is you're taxing yourself. And whenever your mind says and your brain says, wow, yesterday I got shut down 15 times and I made 8 phone calls and I got 10 emails that never got responded on, your brain's gonna say, well, why do we want to do that again? You see? So you got to understand, hey, when I'm starting to feel burnout, what am I not feeding myself that I need to feed myself that builds me up? So I have a couple of clients. Some of them, what they like to do is in the middle of the day, they'll get up and they'll get away from their desk and they'll just take the stairs. They like to take the stairs down to the first floor of the building, because they want to because when you're walking downstairs, notice how focused you are so you don't fall. But it gets their mind off of what was going on, gets them up out of the desk. They walk around, they go grab something to drink, and then they take the elevator up. I used to say, well, why don't you take the stairs back up? But they're like, you know how much time that takes? So for that, just understand that there's interrupts. What we call them is pattern interrupts. Just something that if you've been sitting still for 3 hours in this position, it's not good for your shoulders either. So it's good to go move. Just sometimes get a little bit of movement and come back to it. Right? You don't have to wait for vacation to start feel like you've been in the state of recuperation. You can actually do it real time while it's happening. Okay? So here's what I usually like to suggest to folks. You don't have to do this. You may already be doing something like this, but I find that when you get wins daily or wins weekly, it seems to encourage the positive mental state that you'll need to stay at it, even when you don't feel like being at it. So the way I'm looking at it here is I'm looking at 2 parts of the day. There's before lunch and there's after lunch. Before lunch is the smaller period of time. So these are the time in my mind to go ahead and do the non-time intensive deals. It's just like what you might understand when you're paying bills. You pay the smallest bills, get them done, take a chunk out of the big ones, but eventually you'll pay all the small ones off and then you have more for the bigger ones, right? So the non-time intensive tasks, so this could be the numbers of phone calls, the emails that you're going to make, maybe the coffee that you're going to have with somebody for breakfast at certain points of the day. And then what you're going to do is when you go to lunch, here's what happens to the brain if you think this way. The brain says, well, hey, what have I done today? Oh, wow, I've done this. You lock out all the small things. People that try to launch onto the big time intensive thing go to lunch feeling exhausted because they go, wow, I've got nothing done today. I'm still working on the resume. And see, it has a negative effect of how you're going to approach the rest of the day. So get the wins early and often, right? So that when you go to lunch and you reflect, you can say, yes, I'm on track. I'm doing well. This is great. And then as you're eating lunch, that refreshes the body. So the mind and the body can be refreshed at the same time at lunch. And then when you come out of lunch, now you've got the energy, if you didn't eat too many carbs, to go ahead and say, now let me tackle the bigger, the more time intensive thing, the thing that's going to take 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours. as opposed to the things that only took 8 minutes, right? So I have this little formula here. There's like a number of emails and social media posts that you need to do every day, or to get to a weekly number, but you come up with that number. What's that number? Is it 15 that you need to do in a week? Then how would that look daily? Then there's a certain number of face-to-face meetings you need to have in a week. There's people that you just need to get in front of, because when you get in front of them, things happen, and you know who those people are, right? They love to get out, they love to meet people, and because they see you, they automatically think of other people that they want to hook you up with, right? Which is important, right, for the networking piece. And then there should be a number of events that you're going to go to in a week as well. So is it 2? You need to go to 2. You need to go to 3. Now, because of Zoom, is it maybe 4? Because you can do half of them real time and half of them on Zoom. But what is that number? So you need to know your numbers. Whatever gets tracked can be measured, and whatever gets measured can then be interpreted. And then you can learn, am I heading the right direction and am I not? So here's an acronym I'll throw out for you right now. I call it SEE, S-E-E, as in to actually see something. The French would say voir in terms of seeing, right? And so C stands for this. How do you get successful at anything, doing anything in life? S-C. The S is strategy. You got to have a strategy. What is your strategy to get to this thing, to be the best dad, to be the best person at work, to be the best church member, to be the best mom, to be the best daughter, the son? So S is strategy. You got to have a strategy. The first E is execution, because what good is a strategy if you don't execute it? So execution sounds like this for everyone online. This is what execution sounds like. So my first step is, that's how you execute. You don't come up with a great strategy and go, well, if I could just execute on that. No, you have, again, interrogative self-talk. The first step is, so now that I have this wonderful strategy, my first step will be, that's how you execute. And the last E is super important in the C diagram here. It stands for energy, because low energy sacks a good strategy and sacks execution, right? High energy, it actually creates better strategies and actually creates more movement to execute. So strategy, execution, energy. What's your strategy? How do you get started? And then what's your energy level? Because some days your energy level is high. Go do that work that you need to do. Some days your energy level is low. So you need to think about, what are the activities that raise my energy levels? Because low energy makes, as Lombardi said, cowards out of all of us. We're low energy, that's when we don't want to do stuff. That's when we want to procrastinate. That's when we make excuses. That's when we say, well, somebody else will do it. They'll do it next week. Low energy does that to you. And so when you sense yourself just resisting and not wanting to, what are the things that give you energy? So one of my clients, what he does is it's music. It's certain music. He loves a certain classical sound of Tchaikovsky. That's what he plays whenever he feels really down and not wanting to get up and go to his computer another day and look. He puts on Tchaikovsky because it reminds him of what his dad taught him while listening to Tchaikovsky together. He was able to bring up good energy by listening to some different music, some music that meant something to him. And for you, it could be anything. It could be getting outside and sitting on your porch and letting the sun hit you on the face. Some people are vitamin D people, seriously, just like that. And some people, it's just a smell they need in the room. They'll light up a candle or whatever it is, a scent, but you know what gives you energy. So when you're robbed of energy by whatever it is, get that activity going while you're in the process. So there are some benefits to being unemployed, right? So again, we're looking at the positive side of everything, not, here's another problem, of course, now the car went out, now the air conditioning went out, now my mom needs him to come over and fix this, now this happened, now that happened, right? Don't get into that circle. So here's the thing, volunteer. And I would say from a strategic standpoint, go volunteer at the place you want to go work at. Sounds crazy, right? But it's actually not. Every place I've ever known that was working somewhere always had some sort of setup somewhere where they were going to show their wares to help advertise or market their particular company. So if FedEx is going to do a special thing at one of the meetings that's going on, get there early so you can help them. Say, hey, I'd love to help you set things up. I know what it's like to, set up a meeting and have all the, the badges out here and all this stuff and greeting people when they come in. I'd love to help. When they see that, they go, wow, nobody does that. People just come here and go, where's my badge? And then they complain when the name is spelled wrong or something like that. But they never get anyone who comes up and says, hey, I'd like to help. How can I help today? I see you're carrying in all these boxes. Are any other boxes still in the car in the parking garage? I don't mind getting them. See, nobody does that. Remember, the job here is to stand out, not to act as if you're in the Witness Protection Act. It's to stand out. Take free online courses because they're out there. YouTube has a ton of them. And if it's something that you're really interested in, or if it's something that raises your level of energy because it has sunk, here are the free online courses. The more you learn, the more you can articulate. And the more you're sitting down in an interview, you can say, well, maybe I haven't done that in my past history. What I have been doing in this downtime is I've been taking online courses. So I know enough to be dangerous now. And see, you throw in the little joke, they get it. They go, okay, this person hasn't just been sitting here whining about not having a job. They've actually been building skill sets. So you can also create classes where you teach. So if you've been doing something for 15, 20, 25 years, you have knowledge. So put it out there. How many times have you seen people going live on Facebook or live on LinkedIn where they're just saying, hey, quick thought for the day. Here's how you would deal with blank, blank, and blank. See what you're doing? You're recording something that shows that you're alive, you're out there, and then you're saying something, a tip, and it doesn't have to be something that's super involved, but just something that people go, wow, I never thought of that. That's a pretty good idea. Follow. And if they're following you, they might be saying, hey, you should follow this one guy. He puts these things out there. This one lady, she puts a lot of good stuff out there. I think she's looking for a job too. It says she's looking for her next opportunity in her LinkedIn profile. You see, again, visible. See, when you're depressed, you don't want to be visible. You want to hide. You want to kind of stay back, right? Which is the worst thing to do. Instead, you got to show the world that, hey, I have strengths, I have talents. I'm just not manifesting them somewhere. Would you like to see how I could use it to help your company? Right? There has to be this stubborn positivity that just says, yeah. Bad things are happening in the world. Absolutely. Inflation, gas, sure. But one thing hasn't changed is my commitment to coming in and doing the very best job. Tell me, what's the issue that you're dealing with right now? Or what's the downfall of that? How long has it been going on? What have you tried? Right? And when you start doing that, you're being interrogative to yourself, but then you're also asking them, hey, if you were to hire the perfect person, what would they look like? What would they be doing? And hopefully you're showing that in your strength and an energy level that's up because you've been following the C diagram, right? One last thing before we go back. It says mend relationships that went awry. Now people always go, well, that seems weird. Why is that up there? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes we get into ruts with people and it doesn't need to be, but we just don't contact them. We don't talk to them and we let that rut stay there. And guess what it does? It weighs on you. And then when you see this person, you don't want to talk to them because it'll be awkward, right? And see, all that stuff is giving you negative energy, which is going to then turn around and make you get negative about other things. So actually, if you can mend a relationship that you didn't think could be fixed, you actually feel powerful when that happens. And by the way, how do you mend a relationship that went awry? You just say, hey, listen, John, I haven't talked to you in a while. My fault, I've fallen off the wagon. I've been doing other things, but I'm not going to make excuses. How have you been? No, right? They're not expecting you to call because they remember the last time they talked to you, things were ugly. And then it turns out this guy that you're not talking to, or this woman that you're not talking to, guess what? They work at a company. Guess what? That company's hiring. Right? You don't know where that job's coming from. You have no idea. So if at all, be peaceable with all men is as it said in the Holy Scripture there, right? And so sometimes just fixing a relationship that went awry opens up other doors. You wouldn't think it, but it's so true. I've seen it happen many times. So this last piece is more about community, and I'd love to just get your thoughts. I'm doing this on purpose at this speed because I want the engagement. I want to hear you guys just bring any question that you have. So I want to leave definitely time for that. But here's the thing about community. We're made for it, right? The first thing that we get told in the scripture that was not right was that Adam was alone. That was the first thing we were told that wasn't good when everything else was good. So we're made for community. We actually grow in community, right? We can, if we go to community, we can get outside of our head and stop processing over and over again and playing that tape over and over again about how you didn't get the phone call you were hoping for. You didn't get the email that you were hoping for. You didn't get the response that you would have liked, right? At some point you can really, especially if you're an introvert, you can really get stuck in your head and you can really have a disjointed view of what's actually really going on in the world, right? So here's a huge thing I'd love to pass on to everyone when I get a chance to talk to them. And that is, good things and bad things are not like things that are running opposite. They're actually running concurrent together, right? The difference is you either focus on the positive or you're focusing on the negative, right? So I can tell you a lot of bad things that have happened this year, but because I'm focused on the positive, that's what I'm seeing more, and that's what's driving my energy to continue to do more, right? If I'm focusing on the negative things, it's like, see, figures that this would happen. Well, but see, positive and negative things are happening at the same time. It's not all negative, and it's not all positive. But again, where your focus goes will tell you, okay, I want to be hopeful today. I don't want to feel hopeless. So I'm not going to do things that are going to make me feel hopeless. And I know what they already are. Instead, the hope is right now, maybe the truth is, the reason why you don't have the gig yet is they don't know you yet. They've seen a resume, but they see millions of resumes. And they've done interviews, but everybody says they're talented, they're great, they're this, they're that. Everybody says that. But see, right now, you get to really determine, because it's when you're in weakness that you start to understand what strengths could mean to you. You can say, okay, I've gone through the fire and this is what I've learned. This is what I've learned. No, I haven't gotten the results I want yet. But the word is, I haven't got the results yet. At some point, your mind can tell you, well, for the last 15 weeks, all I've gotten is no responses. All I've gotten. But is that true? Were there people that did come up in that 15 weeks to say, hey, listen, I want you to meet Walt, because Walt knows this, 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 and this. I want you to meet Jeff because he does this, this, right? That happened to you, but notice what you're doing. You're catastrophizing. No, in 15 weeks, everything's been negative. Everything didn't work out. Is that true? Again, self-interrogative talk. When you start to hear your mind go there, is that true? Did that really happen? As a result, I'm going to do what then? Right? Always asking. That strong mental facility says, I'm going to keep asking questions. Because what do questions do? They help you to open up in some assumptions that you're making based off the circumstantial evidence that you see in front of you, which isn't always the truth. It's only a part of it, right? So like you see the guys that love to throw out statistics at you. Notice they don't give you all the statistics. They give you the statistics that make their point because of the confirmation bias, right? But if we looked at all the statistics on something, then we would get a fuller picture, not just the ones that we wanted. We do the same thing in our life. We look at just the data that seems to back up that, see, it must be that I'm not good enough, or I'm not this enough, or it must be because I don't have enough years in this, and I don't have enough years in that, or it must be because my schooling, or it must be because my resume, or it must be, and you start going into all of these things that if the result at the end of it isn't, so because of that, I'm now going to, right? The strongest thing you can say to yourself is, okay, so now that that is the case, or that's the way I understand it, what's my next move? That's the E and C, right? Because guess what? There's always a next move. Now, that next move could be to do nothing, but there always is a next move. So now let's go, I want to appeal to strategy. What's your strategy? See, here's the thing about strategy. You can come up with a strategy and it's great because it can fit what's going on at the moment. But see, your strategy should also evolve as the problem evolves, right? So you should be able to switch inside of the strategy, because you can have a good plan based off of what you saw when you drew it up, but now you're getting new data. If you're getting new data, that means you can't keep forcing that same strategy when the data has changed. So how do I shift? Let me ask myself different questions. Well, I knew before this worked this way, but it appears that that's not good enough now. So what would I do now to gain more skill, knowledge, or practice at something? So when I'm teaching strengths, one of the big things that I will share is that when you take a talent, which we all have talents, right? When you add knowledge, which can be gained, skill, which can be gained also, and practice, you will take a talent and turn it into a strength. A talent is simply just a naturally reoccurring thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. That's a talent. But see, a strength is near perfect performance while doing an activity that you love, right? So for me doing this right now, this is easy. I can do this all day long. And I would like if there were 5,000 people on here, even though I can't see you, right? Because this is my strength zone. This is where I come alive. If I'm not coaching, training, or facilitating, what am I doing? Because I absolutely love this. You have that same thing and you just want to do more of it, right? So what do? We take talent and we add knowledge to it. We add skills, get some more skills, and then it's just practice. Bring it over and over and over again, and it will become a strength, right? And what is strength? Near perfect performance while doing an activity that you oftentimes aren't thinking about, but that you love. The idea here is that it's near perfect, meaning, think about that. When you are at your best, you're working, you're not thinking about it. It's just happening. It's almost like flow, the state of flow coming out. And you like being in that zone because you could say things like, man, I would have done that forever. Or I could have done that for free, but don't, because people will try to hire you for free to do it, right? But you've been there where the hair stood up on the back of your neck while you were doing it, right? That's happened to you before. Other people even came up and said, you know what? You're very good at that. Or people have come up and said, you know what? You make that look really easy. I try to do stuff like that and it doesn't work for me. That's you manifesting those gifts, those strengths and talents, and other people are seeing it. And when they see it, here's what's interesting. We figure out what we look at it saying, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that like them. That was the whole campaign for Nike, be like Mike. You see what Mike does? Don't you wish you could do that too? Hey, buy Nikes, you can do that. Now, don't buy Nikes for that because I don't think they're as comfortable necessarily as, say, some of my favorite brands, but it's something that's there. So again, that's what the positive mental mind state says, is it goes back to, just like the negative mind or maybe the depressed mind wants to keep going to the things that aren't right, the positive mental mind state, and I'm not talking about toxic positivity, like you're just being willy-nilly about it. No, I'm saying you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're starting to put together the program, the strategy, the execution, and energy to get you there. Now, community, we can focus on someone else besides ourselves. That's a wonderful thing. It's always better to give than receive. And sometimes what people will say when they get really depressed here, looking for the job, they'll say, well, how can I offer anything to anyone? I don't have a job. See, that's when you know you're really beaten down, because that really means your job really did become the identity. But here's the thing. How much more powerful would it be if you were able to go help someone when you had nothing supposedly to give? To come from that place, that's pretty powerful. So if you could do that and then help someone else, just for the sheer fact that you helped someone else and then that gave you the energy boost, what might you do with that energy boost, knowing that you helped somebody who had a really thorny problem that they thought that they couldn't touch it without getting pricked? Yet you walked right in and helped them without a job. You still did this. What does that say? Resiliency. It's still there, but again, how's that mindset, right? So also with community, we never know who we might help. And it's a gift to always help people. Let me tell you, that's one of the favorite things about being a professional coach. I get to know that at the end of the day, because I'm always asking them, hey, what did you get out of this session today? I'm just curious. What did you get out of today? You know, what would you apply from what you heard today? And they tell me. When I hear that, it's amazing. When these people land and get jobs, or when these people get the promotions, or when these people make partner at the law firm, they call me and they tell me about it. I can tell you, to give is definitely better than receive. And then here's the other piece, that last one. We never know who ends up helping us. It might be the person we thought there's no way this person could help me. Not in the situation I am, but see, you didn't think about that that person was married to somebody who could help you. So just by knowing this one person, then they introduce you to their spouse, then boom, that's how it happened. So I hope what I'm doing is I'm demystifying the frustrations of the no call, the no email back, the frustration of just feeling like not up to snuff, not good enough because you're not getting the responses that you should get. No, what we're really looking at is, hey, what's a different way? And maybe it has to look that way for the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple of months. But at the end of the day, here's the thing I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine being able to sit back, talking to someone who is now in your spot, talking to you, and they say, well, you know, Rusty, how did you get out of it? I know you were out of work there for 5 months. What did you do? Now, whatever you say after that is going to be the sweetest things that person ever heard. Because what they're going to hear is how you fought through it, which took some resiliency. You're going to tell them about SEE, right? You're going to tell them how it was hard, and that every day you had the same energy that you needed, but you found a way. And then at the end of the day, that person's going to sit up a little taller, and they're going to go, well, if Rusty could do it, then I should be able to do it as well. But I'm going to do it the way it looks right on me, right? Because our strengths are different. And so it's going to look a little different. But the thing is, job or no job, you still have your strengths and you still have to manage those weaknesses. In fact, you have to manage those weaknesses even more. Okay. So I want to open up some time for dialogue, a lot of it. I want to answer any question that you have, but I would end it with just saying this, and then I'll land the plane after some questions and answer. But I want you to look at Ephesians here, 2:10, right? For we are his workmanship. Remember, God doesn't build junk. You're not made out of junk. God also doesn't use spare parts. Your parts are designed for you. That brain and how it thinks was designed specifically for you, right? Created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, saying again, God already knew, he already knew that we should walk in them. That's Ephesians 2:10. So with that, what I'd love to do is take some of your questions, and then I'll land the plane here as we get a little later into it. So what are some thoughts about this? Tell me, what's your big struggle? Tell me what resonated with you here today. What's your question? I'm all here.
Coy put in the chat window, this came to mind. Open your eyes to see approaching your job search more wisely.
Yes, love it. Love it. And so we might ask the question, why don't people do that? Why don't people open their eyes to expand what they see? Why do y'all think that happens?
You're welcome to unmute your mic, control
Yes,
A, hold down your space bar, offer
Yes.
feedback.
Well, I heard in a recent presentation that change throws us into a little bit of a valley of despair, which can be of any, I guess, any type of dimension, depth, width, time, depending on how you proceed through it. And I think a lot of us might just hang around in that valley of despair for longer than we should.
Yeah. So Coy, thank you for saying that. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about change. So you realize that all of us at one point couldn't talk, at one point couldn't walk, at one point couldn't drive, at one point never had a job, at one point never had been married, at one point never had kids. But notice what we did. Those are all transitions. Transition is a change. It is signaling that something is going to something else. In fact, the way we really should look at change is, you know what? It's constant. It always happens. There's nothing you can do to stop change. So the more people fight against change rather than lean in and embrace it, the more you're going to find yourself being depressed, because guess what? Change is just going to be a constant. It's always going to happen. So are we saying that change is always good? No, there's some changes that kind of send you down a dark path. But here's the great thing about change. You can also change that. If it's sending you down a dark path, then you have to ask, what's the light path? What's the path that would be enlightening? And there always is. Here's the better path. Here's the worse path. The difference is if my mind is not strong enough at the moment, and if I'm low energy, then I'm probably going to take the path that's most traveled, and that's the easy path, and that's the one that just says figures. Well, of course it happened to me. And by the way, Coy, thank you for saying that as well. Listen to your language. I didn't say that earlier, but it's super important. Listen to your language. What are you telling yourself, right? Like sometimes whatever we're putting out there is what we're telling people what we believe. Like you have that friend that you talk to and you go, hey, what did you think of the new, the brand new movie, the brand new whatever? And they're always like, well, it really wasn't good. And they're always critical of, like, you ask about their kids. Well, he didn't do that well this year in college. And because of that, we got to, and you notice if you're saying stuff like that most of the time, that's telling you where your mindset is. So instead, sometimes we might say things like, you know what, I'm challenged right now, because that's the truth. Some people might go, well, you know how it is. Everything just sucks right now. Everything sucks right now. Yes, that's exactly, I mean, you'll see that. Or people will just say, you know what, I'm just trying to laugh to keep from crying. Well, how long have you been laughing now, right? So notice some of the things you're saying to yourself. Try to pick up on it when you're saying, well, they probably won't pick me up because I don't have but only 5 years of this when they need 10 years of it. Well, they probably won't. Whenever you're doing that discount, that self-discount, you're telling people that your energy is low. And you should be hearing from yourself that your energy is low. So can you get sad? Yes, of course you can. Can you get distraught about something? Of course you can. The issue here is, do you stay there? Because if you stayed there, what would be the result? Not anything good. So then it's all right, I'll allow myself to grieve. See, some of you haven't grieved yet. You're still upset about that job because it was perfect. It was right around the corner from your house. You had great friends. Your boss was cool. They just downsized your position, right? So you're still a little upset about that. You haven't grieved the job yet. And therefore, when you're going on these job interviews, you sound angry, you look serious, you look mean, and they're picking up on it. They're going, whoa, because their job is not to help you find a job. Their job is to weed you out and see who's left standing. And then whoever's left standing, that's who they're going to say, okay, now we'll see who deserves this job, right? So be very aware. Go ahead, Michael.
So PJ, one of the things I've heard from many different sources that I kind of poo-pooed, but then I started trying it myself, was the first thing I do when I wake up is I go through my prayer routine.
Okay.
But then I write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, what makes sense to me is I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan, you know,
Okay.
and one of Zig's big phrases was, your attitude determines your altitude. And I'll take it a step further. How you start your day largely can influence how the rest of your day goes. And if you start out with those negative thoughts, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, sir.
So I start with 3 things I'm grateful for, try to switch it up and think of new ones, but not afraid to repeat some. And I find that helps me through the whole day.
That's excellent, Michael. I appreciate that. One more thought I'll throw in, but if someone has it, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just kind of taking off with what Michael said. You know, it's interesting that he brought that up because I was on another presentation where they were talking about, you know, journaling, writing 3 positive things down at least once a day, but also doing your kind of mental health check 3 times a day, you know, in the morning, midday, and afternoon, to kind of really keep your mind in the game. In the one presentation, they said a normal person has like 50,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative. And, you know, kind of our worst enemy is our own mindset and kind of how we approach things. And, you know, it's really kind of interesting, but I think really kind of what Michael said is really kind of what are the things we're good at, and really stressing those and keeping that focus is certainly key.
Love it. Thank you very much. Lily has her hand up. Go ahead, Lily.
Yes, thank you. Since you have not hesitated to share scripture, I guess I'll indulge and share what I feel. Let me get my video on as well. Yeah. So to your point about all the negative things, I have all this against me, but you know, if we are professing to be Christians, I mean, with God, everything's possible, first of all. And really his major agenda is to bring us to the likeness of his son. So he uses all these life circumstances and he uses interruptions in a big way. And really, the more we are submitted to that, I think the more we are able to appropriate that peace that surpasses all understanding. I mean, it's not just, you know, yeah, I'll waive my free ticket to heaven and yeah, I have this peace and you put on all that. It doesn't work that way really, and really helps to have the disciplines that Michael Warner just shared. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, it can't go wrong. It's just, it's amazing. And for those of you who aren't believers, I hope this will encourage you to desire and covet this faith.
Thank you, Lily. So here's something. I'll give you this really short anecdote. This happened. So big company, y'all have heard about this company before, called me in to work with their team. Their team was very divided, very well fighting against each other, very, very angry. And they said, well, how are you going to get this team to get together? Because they're coming from so many different parts. They're very, very diverse, very different, very everything, right? All we did was this. This is what we did to break the spell. All we did is we sat down with the company, I'd already heard everything that they did wrong. I asked a different question. I asked the question, hey, so when things are going well here, what does that look like? And all of a sudden, one person from one team said something. One person from another team said something. And another person and another person. This is a practice called positive inquiry. Now I can come in and start talking about everything that's negative and wrong, and then as a consultant go in and try to tell them, here's how you need to fix it. But I flipped it because I wanted to get more communication out of it. I wanted to hear their experience of them doing their job, not what the boss told me because the boss thinks they're lazy, and then what they told me because they think the boss is too arrogant and whatever and blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to get caught up in that. I wanted to know, because I believe y'all do something right. What is it? And we started from there. So we went for about an hour and a half, and they told me about the things that were actually going right there. And then they started telling me the things that they appreciated. That was my next question was, so what do you appreciate about the people you work with? And they were like, specifically or in general? I'm like, either one, whatever you're comfortable with. And all of a sudden, these people were saying good things about the people who the boss told me they couldn't stand each other because one was a Republican, one was a Democrat, one was black, one was this. And they had all these divisions because they've been watching media, and media have been telling them, the world sucks. Look at how bad the world is right now. And there's some horrible things going on for sure. But there's also some intelligent folks out there who are carrying a message of hope and redemption. That's us. And God uses us, puts us into these mission fields called jobs, right? Because while we're working with somebody 50 hours a week, they get to know you, right? And when they start to see, oh, this person seems to be very upbeat, it's not because they're just a positive personality. They seem to have hope. There's that word hope again, and something larger than themselves. I want to know what it is, right? And so then what are you doing now? You're giving while in this situation. So this company, I just did the opposite. I walked in and said, hey, what do y'all do best? And then I said, hey, what do y'all appreciate most about the people that you work with? And then when we got to talking about the things that were wrong, guess what? That time only took 40 minutes, but we spent 2 hours talking about what was great. And then I just asked, how severe do you think this problem really is that I'm called in today to come talk to y'all about? And they were like, well, based off of what happened in the first couple of hours. I said, so what's different now? Because these are still the same people. Now that we've already asserted the positive about people and we talked about what we liked about them. And they said, I just didn't think of them in this way. I mean, now that you brought it out, yeah, I had to remember that John was really good because he took one of my shifts one time when I was sick and I couldn't come in. Yeah, and what was keeping y'all separated? Because y'all argued about Trump? Okay. But notice whether he liked Trump or not, he still was somebody who was willing to cover a shift for you that you needed desperately, and things worked out. See, again, we focus on the things we choose to focus on. Good and bad are happening at the same time. It's a wholly good day with all good things, and here's a bad day with all bad things. No, they're happening at the same time. It's how are you interpreting it for that day? So I would say this, and I definitely want to hear some more ideas and questions out there. I would say this, along with that prayer journal and along with that affirmation journal, I think it's just great to say to yourself, hey, what did I like about today? What did I like about what I did today? Right? That's a great question to ask yourself at night before you go to bed. Don't turn on the news and watch the news before you go to bed, because that's the worst thing you can do. You'll go to bed, have negative thoughts, and you'll have these dreams about, I don't know, stuff happening, right? But before you go to bed, hey, what did I like best about today? And so that this isn't seen as just, oh, let's just more positivity smoke. No, hey, what was something today I could have done better? Right? But I want to go to the place where you're winning first, because that sets the attitude. Notice, as we talk about scripture, notice what Paul does in all the epistles. What does he do? He thanks all the different churches and the places first. Then he tells them in the latter part of the epistle what they're doing wrong. He starts with what's positive and what's good first. Then he tells them, so with you, do the same thing to yourself for your self-care. Hey, what did you like best about today? At the end of the day, right? And in the morning, you might say it this way. Hey, so what's the thing I get to do today that I'm most excited about? Right? Because if you get up every day and you go, here we go, I got to get up, I got to shower, I got to go pick up the dry cleaning, I got to drop off the kids, and then I got to sit down at the desk and I got to go through all these emails that happen. If you start off like that, well, yeah, of course you're going to be in that space. So again, we're talking about, hey, what do you get to do today? Even after this, what do you get to do after hearing me tell you that this is kind of how a lot of successful people start their day that are winning? And the fact that, hey, maybe today you haven't won, but that doesn't mean you're not winning. Does that make sense? Right? How do we know you're winning? Because you've got things, a structure set in place that you're following every day, regardless of what's going on, because your strengths are still the same every day and your routine is still can be the same, even though it can be adjusted. None of that changes just because you don't have the job. In fact, all this is doing is prepping you so that when you get to the next interview, and I hope today, after this, and after many things you do with Walt and with Jeff, I hope you're so confident that when you show up, you're beaming like this. And it's not a matter of, oh, I interviewed another one that's going to probably tell me I don't have enough, or I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm not. No, stop. I'm going to beg you. I'm going to plead with you. Stop that. When you sit down, your attitude should be, bring it on. You know why? Because you know you better than anyone. Now, they know their company better than anyone. So here's the CEO or the hiring person, but here's you, the CEO of you. You get to tell people who you are, what you do, how you do it, and what makes you excited about doing it that way. Nobody gets to tell that story but you. That resume is just there to tell them data, facts, where you've been, and some things that you did. That's all it is. It's a fact sheet. But they don't just hire facts, they hire the person, because if I'm going to work 40 to 50 hours a week with you, I gotta be able to stand you. Are you going to just be somebody who always needs your hand held all the time? Or are you someone who's always going to run way ahead of everybody and try to make me look bad in meetings to my superiors, right? That's what they're thinking about. But for you, remember what I said up front? You're the asset. That person that's trying to hire you is in the asset collection business. So asset, please tell the world what you've brought to the world. What you bring is value, and what you're still learning and what you're excited about. And when they ask you that dreaded question, well, what are your weaknesses? Tell me about your weaknesses. Don't go, oh, they got me. They asked the question. Please, let's don't do that anymore. Instead, let's say, you know what? Your greatest strength is your greatest weakness when it's overdone. So talk in those terms. So if you're somebody who's a command person, right? A command person is somebody who delegates. They love to bring order to chaos, right? But you all can see what the downside to command could be. It could come off bossy if it's done in a way that's abrupt, right? So you're able to tell them, hey, listen, I love to delegate. I love to take control of chaos. But what I've learned is if I don't say that in the right tone, in the right way, I could burn some bridges. And so what I've done to mitigate that is this. So here's what I've done. I took a strength, showed you the weak side of it, told you how I've mitigated it, which then tells them a couple of things. This person's very self-aware, and two, they're very strategic, or at least they understand that they need to not stay in the same place. In other words, none of you should ever be a person that says, well, that's just how I do it. If you don't like it, well, you can, no one should ever say that. And a boss should never say something like that at all either, right? So here's what I want for all of you. One more question for sure, but here's what I want for all of you before this is over today. I want you to know what your strengths are. If you haven't taken the assessment, go take that assessment. You need to do it. You need to know, you need to be able to articulate what value you bring to the table. Again, as somebody who also will hire, I'm in the asset collection business. I want assets. I don't want liabilities. And if I have to figure out what's great about you to get you to do something, then see, now you've become a liability. I want assets, because guess what? I'm going to take you as a nice asset and put it with all these other assets I've already collected. And then I'm going to go team, go tackle that problem. Because I trust you know how to do this, because I see you all as assets. So in that interview, you're letting them know, this is what I bring to the table. These are the problems that I can solve. And here's why I like solving them. Because to me, to bring order to chaos is actually exciting. And I've been that way since I was 10 years old. You see, that's compelling. Don't go in there going, well, I worked at FedEx for 10 years. I've led people. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a people person. Means nothing. But when you can articulate that, that's a win. So please, anyone else? Any other questions, any other comments while I have this last few minutes?
Walt, I see you've got your mic unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, one suggestion. We don't have to do this by ourselves. It's great, everything you said. And I think we can also put these suggestions and activities that you say into practice by joining what we, the term usually is an accountability group. I call it an encouragement and how can we help you group. So it's 3 or 4 people. You talk about your activities for last week and what you did. You talk about activities for this week. You get encouragement, help, and support for doing that. So even if all of your activities last week didn't have any what we might call fruit, we can encourage people and say you're on track. You're doing the right things. You know, and it's all the positive things. So that's very helpful. So we go, we get help, and we give help, which makes us feel better. And one little rule we had was we had a clicker. And if you started talking negative or started griping, the clicker went off and you could not speak negatively during the group. So just
Love it. I love it. Jasmine has her hand up. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Hello, Mr. PJ. Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for this presentation. It's definitely something that I needed because this job search has definitely been straining and my mindset has just like been going like down, down, down. So I'm gonna definitely take the scriptures that you gave and the key points that you gave and really put it into practice because I just need to know that I'm, like you said, I'm the asset. And even though I know what I can do, the people in front of me don't know what I can do. So I need to better articulate who I am and that I am an asset to the company. And just when things don't go my way, that doesn't define who I am. I like what you said. It's not my identity. Like my identity is in Christ, and I have to remember that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. That is awesome. Anyone else? This is your time to go ahead and throw it out there. And if you want to be negative,
Yeah,
bring it.
I'd like to add one thing. You know, I think that, and you briefly talked about it earlier about, you know, the stages of grief. You know, that when you lose a job, you go through 5 stages of grief. It's like losing a loved one. I mean, first you deny that you lost the job, then you're mad, you're angry about it. Then you're bargaining, well, maybe if I've done this, I could do that. And, you know, trying to decide, then you go into that depression about, well, I've lost my job. What am I going to do now? Until you've accepted the fact and you've moved on from that last job, you know, you're not really going to be ready to look for a job. And, you know, if you feel like you're depressed or you're anger or your denial, seek out help because you really need to move on. You know, I've heard some speakers go and say, so if that company would call you back up and offer you the job again, would you take it? And a lot of people say yes. Well, really? I mean, would you really want to go through the same hassles you were going through, or you want to find what your next opportunity is? So, you know, if you feel like you're stuck in any one of those 4 stages, until you've accepted the fact that, you know, you're moving on. If you need help, please reach out and try to reach out to somebody.
Yes, and I certainly like that you scored that up, Jeff, because that's what we are saying. We are saying that whenever possible, you need to be around people. I talked about the community. I had a whole slide on you've got to be around people because community can check you. Community can say, hey, listen, I don't think that sounds like the most positive thing you could say right now. Right? You need people who can rub up against you. So we all kind of know the statistics on this, but most of the serial killers are introverts. They're people who spent a lot of time alone, and those thoughts got so loud that they couldn't determine whether it was real or not, that they really happened or not. And so then with these serial killer mindsets, that's what they'll do is eventually they'll try one thing and they'll kill some animals first. And then they'll go after some people and they'll watch patterns. And to them, in their mind, they don't think this is crazy because there's nobody countering them. There's nobody saying, whoa, wait a minute. Don't you think you're a little too angry about what happened at work because this one person shut you down in the office, right? If you don't have anyone to kind of help sharpen, right? The steel, the iron sharpening iron, right? Then you're liable to go off into any thought place, any headspace. And I can tell you in 12 years of coaching and 10 years of doing career coaching, I've had people walk right into my office and they were angry. They were still mad about a job that they walked away from 3 years ago, still mad about it. And were wondering why they couldn't keep a job right now. It had such a foothold. So again, the energy levels, it takes too much energy to be mad. It takes too much energy to hold a grudge. And again, we said energy is one of the 3 big things. So we can't let that energy fall. And again, that's why I say if there's some bad blood between you and somebody that easily could be solved by just a conversation, have it. You know, have it just because you got to expiate all this stuff that's just other things that can pop into your mind. See, the thing about the mind is we know is while we can't control what pops into our mind, we can't control what we're going to do once the thought gets there. Right? You could be doing anything and a thought can pop right into your head. And if you dwell on that thought, if it's a negative one, you will spiral. At the same time, if that thought pops in your head and it's a negative one, you can go, you know what? Yeah, I used to think that way, but that's not how I'm thinking now. Right? Like there's this impenetrability that you can build with your mind. This is funny. This is so funny. I love to say this to everyone, but this is true. Do you realize that you can train your mind, train your brain to change what it's thinking about your mind?
Yeah.
This is much more powerful than anybody ever knows.
Yeah, and you know, one more thing I think I just want to say before we wrap up is, I think it's real important. I think in the last couple of years, these Zoom calls have been great because it's allowed us to see each other, but it's not the same as seeing each other in person. So I really would encourage everybody. I mean, this week we're not meeting in person because of Vacation Bible School. Last week we had 5 people who were in the room together when we were meeting, along with those on Zoom. I know some of you are out of town, so you can't join us, but for those who are in town, after the official meeting was over off of Zoom, we sat there for 15, 20 minutes just talking about life and a lot about issues and about what the speaker talked about. So, please consider, next week when we start meeting back in person again, coming because you're able to, socialize beforehand, socialize after, come join us for lunch afterwards, because we all need that social interaction that we've been missing for the last couple of years.
I would agree. I would totally agree. And I would just say this to everyone here today. I'm just going to say this, right? Number one, I appreciate that you showed up, right? Because you could have just said, another one of these calls, we're going to have another person telling us about this and what else, right? But the fact that y'all showed up here today, please don't miss that. The fact that you showed up, that's good. That's a start. That's, again, we're counting wins here. That's a win. And then today, even if what you heard today made you bristle or shuffle, or you might think, oh, isn't that a positivity thing? No. I don't want you to think that at all. What I want you to think about is, again, you are the asset, but are you telling your story in a compelling way to make other people go, oh, well, so that's what a Jeff Morris looks like? That's what a Walt Glass looks like? That's what a Lily looks like? Remember, these people don't know. They don't know how great you are or how great you can be. And to some degree, we still don't know that yet until we get stress. And again, you need to have a great relationship with stress. Great relationship with stress is simply that, okay, what got me here won't get me there. It's an accelerator for me to move to the next level of my development. Now, prolonged stress, obviously not the thing I would say, because it has problems with the body and inflammation that starts to happen if you have prolonged stress, which isn't good, right? But we can do this. And so let me just land the plane. If there's anything else that you have to hear today, just hear this. You are an asset. They are in the asset collection business. Polish what's best about you, and you know what that is. And it's the most authentic thing, because you can't help being who you are. You can't, and you're always showing people who you are. Now, we just need to be able to match it with what you're showing them with what you can tell them. So I'm going to tell you, be creative, because each and every one of you are creative in some particular way. And even you don't even know how creative you can be. So yeah, let the problems happen. Let the stress happen. Bring it on is the attitude, because this is going to make me better, not worse, because I refuse to let it do anything different. So some of this is a refusal. And I love what Walt said about having the clicker. When someone gets negative, you have to have a refusal to allow yourself to go to a place where it becomes pity and self-indulgent about that. Refuse that. Now, if you refuse it, here's what I can tell you. You win, and you can win again, and you can stack another win, and you stack another win. And when you've done that, then when you show up to the interviewer, the right interviewer sitting there knowing this, looking for this, is going to see it, and you'll stand out quickly, because they're going to see this person has gone through some stuff. They're resilient, and they're still keeping up a good chin. We need that here, because our business is always ever changing, always difficult, because we got new problems that we're always trying to solve. This person doesn't look like they're afraid of problems. this person looks like they scale problems. And if you can do that, then I can tell you, you'll feel a lot better about your day at the end of the day when you're asking yourself, what did I like about today? And that would be my time, ladies and gentlemen.
PJ, thank you very, very much. The comments in the chat window have been great. I think people really appreciate your talk. A great way to end the week. So thank you very, very much. All right, coming up next week, another very interesting presenter, Minna Brown. She'll be talking about the one-page bio. If you've not seen her book is called Be Sharp. It's one of the 3 books that I highly recommend everybody should have in their library. I think it's just an excellent book about the one-page bio, and extremely, half the book's about the one-page bio. The other half of the book is about great introductions, how to introduce yourself, like a 30-second introduction. So it's definitely worth getting. Join us next week. Minna has told me that she no longer does any other groups except mine. So you're only going to hear her presentation next week right here. So please tell your friends and anybody else to come join us. If you've not put your 30-second introductions into the chat window, please put your name, phone, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and I will be sure to get all that information out to everybody here in the next hour or 2, and see who's on the list and see who you can help. This also will allow me to update the roster. Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Next Tuesday, Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about, for LinkedIn Tuesdays, how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. Next Wednesday, you can be able to watch an actual practice interview. If you'd like to schedule your own free interview, just go to www.dallaspitcrew.com and you'll be able to get more information there. Next Thursday, being the 4th Thursday of the month, we'll have a speaker on networking. Our speaker is going to be Jason, let's see here, is it Jason? Yeah, Jason Hopper from Jewish Family Services. And he's going to talk about other places that you can network at, places you may not have thought about that you can go network and how you can meet people. Because remember, 70 to 80% of jobs are found through networking. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page, and in a couple hours, it will be uploaded to the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, because every video that I upload goes into one of 7 different playlists, and pick the one you want. You go to North Dallas Plano Career Group Focus Group Speakers. Don't click on the video, but down below where it says View Full Playlist, you see that red arrow, click there, and up will come a list of all the dates from the newest one on top, and you can go scan down and find whatever topic it is you'd like to go back and watch. Just remember, most of our presentations here in the North Dallas Group, the speaker starts talking about 25 to 30 minutes into the video. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. For all the fathers out there, have a happy Father's Day. Try to stay cool. I know it's supposed to be a hot one next week, and we will see you all then. PJ, once again, thank you very much.